This should be a review today. We're going to talk about properties of transversals, and just really today just identifying what's what. The reason we're talking about this is obviously we were talking about parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and we're going to continue to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines because our next topic is really parallelograms and rhombuses and trapezoids, quadrilaterals in general. And sometimes they'll be on the coordinate plane, sometimes they'll be off the coordinate plane. So we just want to make sure we have all these skills and the vocabulary terms down. So this is actually something we did very earlier in the year, but I may assume that you guys have forgotten these things. And there's one more thing I need to add on to this. That's going to be vertical angles. Okay, so sorry, forgot to put this one on. Okay, so real quick today, it's going to be just a little bit of a review of things. Okay, so these are two parallel lines. Okay, they don't always have to be parallel, so we're going to talk about ones that are not parallel, even though that's really not our concern right now. I just want to let you know that these things apply. These terms apply to things that are parallel and not parallel. What's different though is what we can say about them because they're parallel, and that's the stuff that's going to help us with parallelograms and whatnot. So we'll talk about that stuff tomorrow probably. Okay. So first I'm going to start off by telling you these are parallel. Okay, just so you guys remember that that's the symbol for parallel. Okay. Vertical angles. Okay. Vertical angles are two angles that are opposite from one another at an intersection, but they share a common vertex. Okay, so I'll give you an example of vertical angle. These two angles, this one right here, and this one right here, these are vertical angles. Okay, and these are vertical angles, right? And anytime you have an intersection, you actually have two sets of them, right? Right. And the important thing about vertical angles is whenever you have a set of vertical angles, they are congruent, okay? So they come in pairs, okay? And so let's go over a couple of them that are here. Okay, I'm not going to go over all of them, but I could say that angle GHI. Now note that we can't call it just angle G. It's got to be angle I, rather. Right? I'm sorry, GIH. My mistake. Sorry, got distracted. Okay, I'm sorry. Angle GIH. Angle GIH. I love you, smartboard. Is congruent to, okay? GIH. JIL, right? These two red angles, JIL. And again, I can't call them just angle I because there's ambiguity there, right? There's question about which one is I. Okay, these both have I as a vertex, but they're opposite from one another. Okay, so another example of some vertical angles you'd have here, JIG, angle JIG is congruent to, okay, HIL. Okay, good. And in fact, we know that these two things are not congruent. Like these two are not congruent because we can tell that one is an acute angle, one is an obtuse angle. But they come in pairs, right? And again, we can say the same thing about these down here. Okay, so the way I always tell people to remember vertical angles, okay, because for some reason you guys have a hard time at any intersection of two lines. Okay, we have two sets of vertical angles, right? And I always tell people to kind of think about, like, you know, vertical angles. Okay, think about it as like a V and an A, vertical angles. If that helps you, use it. If it doesn't help you, then you're just going to have to memorize it, okay? All right, so vertical angles, again, occur at the same intersection, okay? Adjacent angles, linear pair, and supplementary, okay? So adjacent angles are two angles that share a side and a vertex, but they don't overlap, okay? So an example here of those angles would be something like this, okay? So an adjacent angle would be something like GIH, right? And this angle out here, okay? Now note that these are not congruent, right? But we do know when they fall on a line, we call them a linear pair, right? And that means that they're supplementary, meaning that if a straight line is 180 degrees and these two angles are adjacent and make a straight line, then together they must add up to 180, right? So if we notice, we could actually say that pretty much every angle here has two adjacent angles, right? Well, what if I went the other way? Could I say these two are adjacent angles? Sure, right? There are two angles in a row. And in fact, here I know more because they are also a linear pair. They fall on this same line right here, right? So there's two of them. Therefore, if they fall on a straight line is 180 degrees, those two angles have to add up to 180 degrees, okay? All right. I did put vertical angles. None of you guys are going to stop me, right? Sorry about that. Okay. Alternate interior angles. Okay. Much more important when the lines are parallel. Okay. Alternate interior. Now, first thing we need to talk about. This is the interior. Right. It's in between the two lines. Okay. And your exterior is out here. Okay, so interior is in the middle here, exterior is going to be on the outside, okay? Now, when we say alternate, what we mean is bouncing back and forth, okay? So to alternate is to go back and forth, right? If you're playing cards against an opponent, you alternate, you go back and forth, okay? So again, what are we talking about? We're talking about going back and forth across this transversal here, okay? So when I say alternate interior, what that means is that they are on the opposite sides. They go back and forth on the interior. Okay, so you have two sets of alternate interior angles here. You have this one, right? That's on the interior. And on the alternate side of the interior is going to be this one, right? And what we know from earlier this year is that if the lines are parallel, then those are going to be congruent. Okay? And again, we have another set over here. Again, both on the interior on alternating sides of the line, right? So these are alternate interior. So what you're kind of looking for is either like this kind of stretched out shape right here, or you're kind of looking for this Z shape or backward Z shape. Okay, those are the shapes we're looking for alternate interior. Okay, so you're kind of looking for one that's going to be like that, right? And one that's going to be like that. Okay. These are what you're going to have. These will be your acute alternate interiors. These will be your obtuse alternate interiors. Okay. Alternate exterior, same thing, except now we're going to be on the exterior. So we said the exterior would be out here. Right? And again, alternate exterior will be on alternating sides of the line. So your alternate exterior, one on this side, and all the way down here on the exterior on the other side. That's one set of alternate exterior. Okay, and again, up here, we'll give it two stripes because they're different sizes, right? So other one, alternating sides, so switch sides, and also on the exterior down here, okay? Good, so these are your alternate exterior angles. Okay. Corresponding angles. Corresponding angles we only really have if the lines are parallel, so we won't be able to answer that for some point. But corresponding angles are essentially going to say they're in the same position at the two different intersections. So I would say something like this corresponds with this, right? Again, if I took this whole intersection and just kind of slid it down, these would be the corresponding ones, right? This one will correspond with this one. This one will correspond with this one. And this one would correspond with this one. So it's in the same position at the other intersection. Okay? And the last one I'll mention, it doesn't come up often. It's just that there's not really like a set technical term for it. and that's consecutive or same side interior exterior. Okay, so what they mean by that is same side interior. Okay, so this one and this one. So they're interior angles, but they're not alternating. They're on the same side. Or on the exterior, same side out here. Okay, and the thing is with these is that they are not necessarily going to be congruent to one another. What you're going to find is that they're going to be supplementary. So they're not going to ask you so much about that, but it is something that comes up. So consecutive just means in a row. And so if I said same side interior, I mean these two in here. If I mean same side exterior, I mean on the same side on the exterior. Okay. And the things you'll know about those when we get to them is that they're going to be supplementary. Okay. So real quick, all I want to do is just go through, hey, what's an example of each one? Okay, so give me an example of an adjacent angles or linear pairs that are supplementary. So in this case, I'm going to take this one right here and this one right here. Okay, again, there's two different symbols, right? This has one stripe. This does not have one stripe. So I'm going to say angle KLI and angle MLI. Okay, good. I'm looking for a pair of vertical angles. So I'm going to say, well, I don't know, these two right here. So I will say angle GIJ and angle what is it? GIJ HIL. Angle HIL. Okay. Alternate interior. Okay. So I will say this one right here, right, and alternating to the other side, and also on the interior is going to be this one down here. So that's a JIL. And let's go ILK. Okay. Alternate exterior, again, let's pick things on the exterior. So I'll pick this one right here, right? And exterior would be down here. And on the other side, the alternate side would be this one. So I will say angle GIH and angle, what did I say? MLM. Angle MLN. Corresponding, okay, let me clear this up a little bit. Corresponding, I will pick this guy right here. Different color. Okay, let's pick this one. Okay, and corresponding means in the same position down here. So again, this will be in the same position. So I'll say angle HIL and angle KLN. And again, let's talk about consecutive. Let's pick a different color, green, I guess. Same side interior, like our same side exterior. So if I said these two. Okay, it's a different symbol because they're different sizes. We say something like angle JIL and angle IL. Okay, I mean that's pretty much it, guys. These should all be a review. I just want to talk to you guys about a couple different situations. People lose their minds when they flip the graph. Okay, so. Again, I will do these in just a couple different colors just so you guys can see them. So if I said, give me a pair of vertical angles, right? Well, I've got these guys are vertical, right? These guys are vertical. These guys are vertical. And these guys are vertical. Okay. If I said alternate interior, Okay, so again, alternate interior. So again, now this is the interior in here. Okay, so if I say alternate interior, we're looking for that same shape, except it's going to be a little bit sideways this time. Okay, so alternate interior would be something like this one, and this one, or this one, and this one. Okay. Alternate exterior. Okay, again, what do we got? We've got this guy right here, and this guy right here, right? Opposite sides, right? Alternate exterior, right? And corresponding, and I don't know, orange again. Corresponding again, this one corresponds with this one corresponds with this one corresponds with this one, and this one corresponds with this one. Okay? Again, not really worried about consecutive or same side interior right now. The last thing I want to show you guys is just when the lines are not parallel, okay, that we still have vertical angles, right? We still have vertical angles. We still have alternate interior, but they're not going to be congruent. We still have alternate exterior, but they're not going to be congruent. We don't have corresponding because no longer does this angle correspond to this angle. They're not the same anymore, so there's nothing to correspond. So we still have these things, but they're not as important to us. So you can still identify them, just we won't be able to tell things. What we're focused on are parallel lines because that's going to help us with our greater topic, parallelograms, and the other things that we've been looking at this week. Okay, so again, it should be a quick review, and hopefully you guys got it, and I will talk to you soon. See you soon.